Well, I mean, I can't stay away from cyberpunk stuff. I mean, that's just the hottest topic right now, so might as well talk about it. And we're going to talk about cyberpunk's romance options and something that's been pointed out. And once something's been pointed out to you, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, huh, you're right. Kind of like if you have a cut that you don't notice, and somebody points out, hey, you have a cut there, and all of a sudden it starts hurting. Yeah, it's kind of like that. So this article is coming to us from Forbes, and before I get to it, make sure you guys are hitting that like button, subscribe if you guys are new. Almost 60% of you guys who are watching my videos are not yet subscribed. Hopefully you consider hitting that sub button. I'd appreciate that. And I want you guys to let me know what other games you've played that has romance options that you don't feel constricted as your options, right? So like for me, that would be like a Fallout game, like Fallout New Vegas, right? So like I don't feel like I'm being restrained in my romance options in a game like Fallout New Vegas. Like where as opposed to Cyberpunk 2077, I kind of do, and especially now that it's been pointed out to me from Forbes. So let's get to that article, shall we? Something feels off about Cyberpunk 2077's limited romance options. Back when BioWare was making actual RPGs that everyone was playing, he's talking about Dragon Age and probably what is it? I was gonna say BioShock, Mass Effect. There were some pushbacks about how the game allowed almost too many romance options. There were some complaints that a whole lot of NPCs were bisexual, able to be romanced by players of either gender, and it was unrealistic. Which is kind of true in a way. I mean, but at the same time, why not give the people the option? Like I don't. It's a game. Yeah, I really like. It doesn't bother me. I always thought that was kind of dumb at the time, but now we get to see what happens when a developer tries to color in the lines a lot more. CDPR's romance options for Cyberpunk 2077 are strangely rigid to the point where there are only 2 per gender, and 1 if you're playing with V as a dedicated preference of your own. There are 4 main romance options outside of Joy Toys and the occasional story flings in Cyberpunk 2077. Judy Alvarez, only romanceable by female V. Pan Am, only romanceable by male V. River Ward, only romanceable by female V. And Carrie, only romanceable by male V. And that's it. And it creates a kind of weird situations given the strict rules in place here. Fanbyte wrote an article called My Cyberpunk 2077 Boyfriend is an A-hole, but he's all I've got. About how the game's only romance choice for a gay male V is Carrie. Easily the lamest character of the 4, but there's simply no other options. Which it's true. Like, for example, like I'm playing as a female V, and I tried to make a move on Pan Am, and she's like, no. She friend zoned me real quick. So it was weird. It was weird because, like, what is it? Meredith Stout, you can have a fling with, like as female V. Just like they said, Judy, you can have a fling with Judy. But Pan Am, like, you can't have anything. It's kind of weird. And this goes into what I said in my review. If you guys haven't watched my review, go watch my review. This kind of goes into what I said in my review about the game, how one of the things lacking in this game is companions. There's no companions in this game. No true companions. Outside of little story quest companions like, Pan Am or Judy or Jack. Or, like the story companion that you have with Johnny Silverhand, you don't have any true companions that stay with you through the entire game, like you do in a Fallout game or Outer Worlds. Like it's something that like I feel like should have been implemented into the game, and I didn't really notice the lack of romance options until it was pointed out to me, like we're seeing here. It's one of those things where it's like, why is there only those 4 options? I don't understand. And in those 4 options, why can't we have the choice of all of them? Like, why is it only limited to male and female characters and that's it? It's something that like I just it's not that big of a deal per se in the grand scheme of things, but it's just a weird thing for a game that's touted that you can do whatever you want, right? Like this game was marketed to us as a game where we can do whatever we want. We can customize our characters, we can customize our genitals, which let me look. We don't even have that much customization for genitals, let's be honest with you. For penis sizes, you got small, and you got skinny small. Like they're not like just no. I wanted to be able to make one the size of my leg. So every time like I don't have a weapon, I can maybe swing it at somebody's face. But nah, I gotta settle for Sir John Falstaff, which is fine. I don't mind that. It's still funny. But regardless, and yes, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's just one of those things where it's like it's a game where they say you could do whatever you want, but then they limit you. Even the story is limited in a sense because the story is very linear. Like there's no real difference between choosing Corpo, Nomad, or Street Kid. They all end up the same. The beginning of the game is a little bit different, but they all end up the same. So in reality, it just becomes a linear game that has an open world setting to it. And if I wanted that, I'd be playing something like Spider-Man, for example, or God of War. Like it's one of those weird things. Hell, even Red Dead 2 is the same thing. The story is linear, but it's an open world setting. And I said Cyberpunk doesn't really do anything that's vastly different. There's nothing unique really about Cyberpunk except for maybe the setting. But even then, we've had games that are in that kind of setting, a Cyberpunk style game. Look at Observer. That's in a Cyberpunk style game. So or setting. So this game doesn't really do much that's new. So why is it then that this game was supposed to change everything for the better? Like it was supposed to be this big deal of a game, but then when you actually play it, you really do feel like they cut everything down. And they even said they cut back a lot of stuff, but I mean, I feel like they cut back a lot of stuff. Like I can go and sink in a bunch of hours into a game like Fallout 3, New Vegas, Fallout 4, Outer Worlds, and I have a bunch of replay value in those games because then I can go back for different stories, different builds, different characters, different things. This game though, there's no real reason to replay it because even if you start the game the same, you could just play that beginning part that you missed and then the rest of it's the same. There's no need to keep playing. Like it's one of those weird things. So at least like having maybe different romance options like would have been able to add for some replay value. Like at least Persona 5, for example, has that. Right? Like you get to romance pretty much every single character in there if you want to an extent, and it adds for that little bit of replay value to see what happens at the end, to see those romance scenes and all of that stuff. So it's just a weird thing. It's a weird thing for me, and I want to know how you guys feel as well. Do you feel like this game kind of limits you in how you want to play it? Sound off in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys real soon.